The promise in waiting is this, that your peace can and will come before your promise, because God is working even when we can't see it. Your waiting isn't wasted. Even when it feels like it, church, your waiting is not wasted. The promise in the waiting. Now, here's where the story did something I didn't quite catch the first time I studied Hannah's story, but it was such an amazing thing that sticks out. Watch what Eli says to Hannah. After realizing she wasn't drunk, she was just really desperate. He says to her in verse 17, "In that case, go in peace. May the God of Israel grant the request you have asked." Now, Eli doesn't say, "Go, you are already pregnant. Congratulations." He doesn't say, "Go, you will have a baby by September. You just got to be a little patient." He just says, "Go in peace." And then we get to see what Hannah's response is. She says this in verse 18, "May I always be pleasing to you," she replied. And then she went back, ate some food, probably some Chick-fil-A, and she was no longer sad. Church, do you see that? She was no longer sad before there was any physical evidence of a baby, before there was any concrete facts that she was pregnant and a baby was actually on the way. The peace showed up before the promise did. Paul tells us in Romans 8:25 about waiting patiently. But if we look forward to something we don't yet have, we must wait patiently and confidently. Patiently and confidently, not patiently and anxiously, not patiently secretly assuming God forgot our order. Patiently. We think it works the other way around. The peace comes when the baby comes. You get the job offer. Now I can be at peace. My marriage is finally in a great place. Now I can be at peace. But Hannah shows us peace isn't just the after photo. That God will give you peace when you're still waiting for your after photo to develop. That, church, is the whole ball game right there. Peace can arrive before the promise does. Now, I want to be honest with you about something, because honesty is the posture that we're going for today, right? So I've had a lot of weights in my life. I've had short weights, long weights, scary weights, big weights, all sorts of weights. And last year, I had a weight that was really scary to me. I found a lump. And if you've never experienced something like that, let me tell you, your mind goes to some crazy places. My mind, unfortunately, took me to Google. I told you, honesty. I know, medically speaking, the worst place you could possibly go when you find a lump in your breast, but that's what I did. And after putting in all the things, I had 4 kinds of cancer and a tropical fungus, which I don't have, by the way. And so I went to see my doctor to get it checked out, and she recommended that I go see a breast specialist and then also get some genetic testing done because of my family history and things. So I went, I saw the doctor, and then the wait, and then the longer wait. And I remember that wait very, very specifically, because it was a wait where my cell phone became the scariest thing in my house, waiting for the phone to ring to where it could be life-changing news. But it was also a time where I actually heard what my ringtone sounded like, because I hadn't turned it on in like 2 years. So the test results were in, and I had to decide right then and there how I was going to wait. So I did what Hannah did. I prayed to God. I told God just exactly how scared I was, how the uncertainty of knowing what my future would look like would be. And then I told a few trusted people, because I wanted their prayers, obviously, but church, it's so important for me to tell you this. You don't have to sit in your waiting room alone. There are people that will come together with you. And then, the hardest part, I surrendered the outcome. I knew that my life could change, but I was ready for it. The test was already done. The results were probably already sitting in a lab waiting to be read. All I had to do was choose how I was going to wait. Other than becoming a part-time stalker of my medical records, which if you know that, you know, checking them online every 5 seconds. So, praise the Lord, the lump came back totally fine and clear, but the genetic test did not. I tested positive for a gene that increases my chances of getting breast cancer in my lifetime by a certain percentage. And I don't want to lie to you and tell you that it didn't rattle me a little bit, didn't shake my world. But what I can tell you is that I have a medical monitoring team that God put in my life that knows me by name, and probably my coffee order by now, and we're going to catch it. If it happens, we're going to catch it early. I am no longer living in fear in my wait. I am living in monitored peace, knowing that whatever happens, my God is with me and for me. Just like that Chick-fil-A employee could see my whole order, God can see my whole life, and He's got it handled. He has set me up with a whole lot of training for moments like that. God can see the whole line, the whole timeline, even when you can't, even when we're sitting there positive we've been forgotten. I promise you, church, God has not forgotten about you. And he didn't forget about Hannah. It says in chapter 1, verse 19, the entire family got up early the next morning and went to worship the Lord once more. Then they returned home to Ramah. When Elkanah slept with Hannah, the Lord remembered her plea, and in due time she gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, for she said, I asked the Lord for him. God's timing is not our timing, but God's timing is perfect. So Hannah teaches us these three things about waiting room faith. That your pain and your weight is real, but comparison can make it a whole lot heavier. The posture of your waiting matters. Pray honestly, stay faithful, and release the outcome. And most importantly, the promise in waiting is this, that your peace can and will come before your promise, because God is working even when we can't see it. Your waiting isn't wasted. Even when it feels like it, church, your waiting is not wasted.